Speaker,
Yes,
I'm not sure where the honorable member was reading from, but the standing order he quoted, 97.3, actually is 2. If so desired by the person presenting the paper, a short explanatory statement may be made. I'm not going to 3. So the honorable member is completely out of order.
Yes, leader.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, my respected colleague, who is the applicant in this matter, made an application. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Kojo Oponkroma, Member of Parliament for Ofuase Ayebi, rose on his feet under Order 97.3 to make his application. In mounting his application, he relied on Order 97.3, and for the avoidance of doubt, I quote, "A short explanatory statement shall be made by the person presenting a paper where requested by the House or a member upon presentation." So he has requested. He has requested. He rose on his feet to make an application. Mr. Speaker.
Leader, thank you very much. But at this juncture, I'll turn down the application. Kojo, let me turn your application down based on 2, that if so desired by the person presenting the paper. So if the person decided not to give, Honorable Kojo, Honorable Kojo.
If you kindly indulge me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, once you have made a pronunciation...
You cannot challenge the Speaker, and you must allow the Speaker to give you the chance to speak. The Speaker must allow you to speak.
That is what I'm requesting
of the Speaker. I have not heard the Speaker.
Yeah, but that is what I'm
Honorable Leader, I've also not given you the chance to also speak.
That is what I'm requesting of the Speaker.
So, Kojo, let me hear you.
Mr. Speaker, please indulge me. Order 97.2 says that if the presenter of the paper so desires, then he may give a short explanatory statement. But 97.3 says that a member may request for that explanation. And where that request is made, Mr. Speaker, a short explanatory statement shall be made, not even may.
Well.
So I come under 97.3 with my request, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Well. Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for, is it Ayuribi?
Ofuase Ayuribi.
Ofuase Ayuribi is coming under Order 97.3. 2 and 3. 2 and 3.
He didn't come 2 and 3. He said Order 97.3.
97.3. But Mr. Speaker, we have passed the stage of Order 97. Order 97 is talking about the presentation of a paper. What he has done is not to present a paper. What he has done is to move for the adoption of a report. Is to move for the adoption of a report. He is not presenting a paper. I presented the paper. So at the point when I presented the paper, you could have then asked me, instead of just to present the paper, to give some explanation as to what was contained in the paper. So we've gone past there. We've gone past there. This one, he's moving for the adoption of a report. So let him move for the adoption of his report.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the literalist interpretation The literalist approach to interpretation, Mr. Speaker, is not what operates today. This is a House of Parliament. We must be purposive in how we interpret our rules. We must be purposive. But, Mr. Speaker, this is not a time to litigate on matters of this nature. Mr. Speaker, it's early days. What is important is to ensure that ministers of state are approved to take charge of our ministries. The ministries are not for civil servants to manage. It's for political leaders with a political mandate to manage. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that would revisit laying of papers and presentation of reports. Mr. Speaker, are reports themselves, reports, when you talk about reports, are they not the same items that are described as papers? The acting clerk may allow me to intervene for the applicant. The applicant would want to pick something. Mr. Speaker, the report, are they not the papers that have been laid? So the argument that the horses are bolted and there's an empty stable will not suffice. But, Mr. Speaker, we will not litigate this matter today.
Honorable members,
Right.
honorable members,
Right.
please. No, you haven't gotten. No. Honorable First Deputy Speaker, may you take your seat first.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable First Deputy Speaker, I have not given you the
Very well,
opportunity.
very well.
Honorable members, I believe the first-timers are monitoring. In the House, we deal with procedural. And what we are talking about is procedure for presenting papers. So, Honorable Kojo Oponkroma, I think you agree with us to move on. I've already ruled. So the motion has been moved. I'm looking for someone to second the motion. Yes. Honorable Deputy Major, are you seconding the motion? No, if you are not seconding the motion, I'm not giving you the floor. I want someone who will second the motion. Yes, Honorable Afenyo, you may second the motion.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Minority Leader, please address the chair.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion moved by the chair of the committee. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the Right Honorable Speaker read to us this communication from His Excellency the President. At the time the communication got to this House, the one who signed it was the Secretary to Mr. President. Mr. Speaker, at the hearing, the matter was raised, and I must state for public records that His Excellency subsequently brought a letter signed by he himself, and that put that matter of constitutional procedure of a sort to a peaceful rest. Mr. Speaker, as contained in page 2 of this 48-page report, the committee requested for and received from National Intelligence Bureau a security report on the nominees. And I must say that all three reports proved favorable. We therefore proceeded to hear them. Mr. Speaker, first on our respected colleague, the Majority Leader, Dr. Kasiel Ato Van Forsen. He distinguished himself. The necessary questions were asked him. He explained to the best of his ability. Of course, there were clear commitments that our side, the minority, expected from him regarding some promises that his party made in its manifesto. These we expected him to have given us clear, straightforward answers. But, Mr. Speaker, he coming under the fact that he's not been to the ministry and there's the need for some consultations was open in his answers. Mr. Speaker, this House will hold his feet to the fire by demanding answers from him even as he assumes that high office. Mr. Speaker, we're also not too sure about his designation. The executive instrument establishing the ministry talked about Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, whereas the letter to us referred to him as the Minister of Finance, designate. So I believe that that is a matter that has to be done because it's a constitutional matter that I believe that the President may have to look at. Mr. Speaker, this government has made a lot of promises that it is going to repeal some taxes at our ports. Those port taxes have still not been repealed, but I can understand because they don't have a Minister of Finance. We can understand that because they have not presented their first budget. But at least we expect them to make a public commitment. To make a public commitment that indeed, given the opportunity, they will walk the talk. Importers are anxious. They are expectant. They want to see taxes and levies reduced. They want to see taxes that you call obnoxious taxes repealed. You promise them great reliefs. Those importers are expectant. Mr. Speaker, the all-important support for the private sector, initiative, the 1D1F, we asked the minister why in opposition he did not support the 1D1F. His views were to the effect that these exemptions, when given, are often abused. But, Mr. Speaker, merely saying that exemptions are abused is not enough. What is important is for government to put in place measures to ensure that those who benefit and use these benefits for the good of industry. Again, it appears that in opposition, he acted perhaps merely for the sake of politics. We still believe that the only way for this government to survive is to ensure a thriving private sector. Giving or granting exemption to the private sector is something that must happen. It must be done. You can't continue to tax the private sector. I spoke about tax waivers yesterday. I will speak about tax waivers today, and I'll speak about it tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, they are talking about their so-called big push. The so-called big push was again re-echoed by my respected colleague Artis Verten. Again, we are holding him to the commitment he's made Mr. Speaker, for the first time, he defined the 24-hour economy. All these months that they were talking about 24-hour economy, there was total confusion. He now says that the 24-hour economy is only going to look at the real sector of our economy. So we are looking at the manufacturing sector, the mining sector. He said so for the record, and he's been captured. If you read page 9 of the report, I have the 48-page report. I have it with me. And that is what he referred to, that the 24-hour economy is going to concentrate on the real sector. I am sure that if this concentration is done, yes, it's here. Funding government machinery. He said the implementation of it. He's talked about it generally. Mr. Speaker, if they really implement the 24-hour economy, we will not be seeing desperate youth on our streets. We will not be seeing desperate youth invading people's company premises. We will not be seeing violence. We will not be seeing unemployment at high levels. So, Mr. Speaker, we look forward to the resetting agenda that my respected colleague talked about. But, Mr. Speaker, this House, a fourth termer, he's distinguished himself, fifth termer, sorry, Honorable Amakofi, thank you. No, my senior. Yes, he's my senior, that's correct. Though we agreed to enter this chamber the same year, I was not fortunate. I lost my primaries by a single vote, and I had to go back to the assembly to go and contest again as an assemblyman and to become a presiding member and to catapult myself into the chamber 4 years after. So I agree. Atu is my senior in this chamber. That's fine. Mr. Speaker, I have absolute confidence in him that being a young man, he's 46, he served as a deputy minister, per what he told me during the inauguration. Here was a young man who came into the chamber and was seated behind the pillar. Nobody saw him. Nobody recognized him. He didn't even qualify for leadership of committee. By the grace of God, industry and patience, he's gotten to where he's gotten to. I believe that Atu's rise to that high office should be an inspiration. And I tell him that he should not forget about that. If he falls, it will be the fall of the Ghanaian youth. Going to manage an economy is no joke. We can only pray for him, wish him well, pray that he works with a team there, consult more, and be firm in his own approach to things. It's not a very popular position to take in government. His party people will come after him. Other government ministers will be on him because everybody would be anxious to have a bite at the national cake. So he should be minded of the challenge ahead of him. Mr. Speaker, the next person, our own respected colleague, John Abdullahi Jinapo, who is going to the Energy Ministry. Mr. Speaker, I will rest my case on him as there are some more aspects in that area that I would not attempt to go there. There are people who are well versed in those energy-related issues, and I know that they are very anxious to make a meaningful contribution in that area. So I will skip him Suffice to state that he is such an affable fellow. If we look at his family, his brother is with us. He distinguished himself. He is on the other side. And Ghanaians should watch this, that the politics we do should not divide a family. The politics we do, Mr. Speaker, I will pause here to remind the majority side. They are in government. They are no more in opposition.
Leader, just address me.
I'm
Ignore
addressing
them.
you, but
Yes.
I'm reminding them. I'm reminding them that they are in government. If they want to be litigating, your government business will delay. We will have our say. Mr. Speaker, the Jinapo brothers have something to tell Ghanaians. Politics should not make you think to the extreme. Those of us here who, when it gets to politics, we forget that we are friends and we hit so hard, should learn from the Jinapo brothers. Those who, when it gets to electioneering period and they are sent to people's
You see your life.
unacceptable, and they proceed, and when they finish they will come and pretend like they are brothers. Those who go to polling stations, collation centers to misconduct themselves, forgetting that we are in this together, learn from the Jinapo brothers. Those who lead tax to collation centers to insult, to threaten, yet they know they are members of parliament, should remember the Jinapo brothers represent the hope of this country. Learn from them. The Speaker, that said, I shall rest my submissions by having a bite on the nominee, Dr. Dominic Akurutinga Ayeni. Mr. Speaker, this gentleman has earned the respect of this house. Mr. Speaker, I remember when I was on government side, leading government business, there were situations where, as a professional, he even departed from certain positions taken by his side. He got a lot of social media attacks on him, but he stood firm and he stood his ground. No wonder His Excellency, in looking for a formidable but moderate lawyer to mount that ministry, he found him worthy for that cause. He's made his name in the academia. In my early days of practice, there was one case I relied on to make my bail applications and to defend my client, the famous Tagore versus the Republic. Mr. Speaker, the Tagore case was a case that no lawyer wanted to venture. Tagore was jailed with others, and lawyers felt that it was a radioactive substance. This was a man who took the judgment of the High Court, read through it, and took up the appeal. I would encourage young lawyers and law students to go and read what Apau J, as he then was, said of Dr. Ayeni, where my Lord Apesera said of Dr. Ayeni. He distinguished the law and set us on a new era of criminal jurisprudence. And that has enriched the law in the area of criminal justice. All these go to his credit. Mr. Speaker, when I was practicing in the area of financial crime, There were a lot of times that we clashed at the Supreme Court, but the beauty of the relationship was that when we left court, he, as Deputy Attorney General, came to me to even encourage me that I should continue. And that is the beauty of the game. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind him that going into that important ministry, we on this side of the house are watching him closely and keenly. There would be extremists, hardliners, who will be looking for the people's justice. He should remind them that Ghana is a country of rule of law. He should remind those extremists that due process is the only means to achieve an end. He should not allow people to be pushing him here and there. Mr. Speaker, let Hansard testify to this point I want to make. Once upon a time, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, was confronted with a situation where, indeed, those supposed culprits or suspects had really not done any wrong, but some omissions resulted in they having done some wrong against the state. I'm referring to the double salary situation. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo decided to pursue a path to bring down the temperature of the country. Many were those extremists in the MPP administration pushing the Akufo-Addo government to pursue the double salary and even jail them. I remember, as a member of his government, President Akufo-Addo said, to what would he gain if all these members of parliament are sent to court and are jailed? What will become of the politics of the country? This is my word of caution to my respected senior and the law professor. Pursue those who have committed a criminal wrong. No problem at all. But don't pursue political opponents. If somebody has wronged the state, has committed a crime, there's no problem. But do not allow anybody to push you to attack your political opponent. Mr. Speaker, 2013, 2014, I was on this side. Some of us, the lawyers, I remember myself and 3 other lawyers who were always doing our cases, were being chased. Today, file your tax. And they were having issues. They would send us to Yoko. I remember it took Dr. Ayeni to tell those adventurers, to tell those extremists, that these are MPs who are lawyers, don't invade their offices. I remember. There are always extremists. There are always extremists who will be chasing you, the Attorney General. Go after your opponent. Let us make getting into government attractive and getting out of government also attractive. Yes. Don't let us create an impression that we get into office only to focus on so-called political opponents. I'm coming to Ora. Mr. Speaker, that so-called committee claiming to be going after loot must be cautioned that committee is unconstitutional and illegal. And I pray that my respected colleague, Dr. Ayeni, after taking office, will review the activities of this illegal, unconstitutional body, bring things to order, and allow the state institutions clothed with the mandate to investigate to follow due process, investigate, and prosecute if necessary. The way this aura is going, it will not help the cause of our democracy. Today you are in government, tomorrow you will be in opposition. Do unto others as in all situations you wish them do unto you. If MPP side in government makes some mistakes, you know you don't have to continue that path. So leave above board and pursue justice for all Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, on that, I shall thank you for indulging me and rest my case and encourage members to support this report, which is by consensus. Thank you so much indeed.
Honorable members, the motion has been moved and it has been seconded. It is now before the House for consideration. Honorable members, let please be snappy with our contributions. I believe we agreed at the pre-sitting that we are going to have 5 members from each side.
Right on, Speaker.
Honorable Leader, I'm speaking.
Please. Before we proceed, I think that it has been agreed. We'll not argue about that, but we need to talk about it. Going forward, I think we need to revisit this number of people who speak. We have 187, including independent candidates, and quite frankly, 88 members. And so when it comes to debates, it must be proportional. And I think it's fair. I am not arguing about the agreement. I'm not arguing about the agreement. But I'm saying that going forward, time immemorial, because of the numbers. Other than that, we'll have so many people who don't have. But I am not going back on the agreement that has been reached. I think it's very important that we say it.
Honorable members, please, let's have an order. The decision has already been taken at the pre-sitting. It has been agreed that 5 from each side. So, Honorable Deputy Majority Leader, please, the decision has already been taken. So now we have the names here. We will begin with Honorable Alhaji Ladi Ayaba. Hajia Ayaba. Honorable member, you wouldn't go beyond 5 minutes. Just indulge me so that we can have this report concluded and attend to other business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, but the title should come as Hajia. Mr. Speaker, let me first of all thank the Almighty Allah for bringing us to this level and thank the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, for making these nominations to take up the mantle of governance in his government. Mr. Speaker, the first 3 people who have come to table are individuals whom I have known for at least not less than 12 years each, some of them more. Mr. Speaker, let me start with the person of Honorable Atoforsen. This is a person who has been so forceful in all his activities. He has never taken the issue of his personality to be something that he feels he may feel big or think that he is above others. His demeanor has been so encouraging. His knowledge of the subject matter is not questionable. He was the Deputy Minister of Finance, and he worked to the best of his knowledge. He did so well that we all saw the kinds of things that he did until the NDC then left government in 2016. I became so happy with Honorable Atuforsen and continued to watch him as we sat on your left side, Mr. Speaker, when he had this issue of being dragged to court. I had more confidence in him when one day I said, "Leader, this issue," he said, "Hajia, don't worry, it shall be well." And I said, "Inshallah, it shall be well." And it has been well. Mr. Speaker, this is the same man who has been nominated in the vetting committee. His responses left no stone unturned. He did so well. I just sat and watched him. And there was nothing I could say or think about than to wish him well, because I know he has that good knowledge. And I know he will deliver. All we need is for us to work and work well and ensure that he delivers for the good of the people of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, from what I have said, you realize that his capability is not questionable. Scrapping of taxes. People have spoken and said time again, especially about the almighty e-levy. The e-levy doesn't only affect those that we think it's affecting, whereby maybe we those here do not care, but I can assure you that it affects us because there is time that your own constituents, in sending monies to their children or relatives, would complain to you about these taxes, which are, I will describe, a nuisance tax. It has been a big worry, and I'm so happy that he mentioned it and has reaffirmed the president's position that that tax will be scrapped. And I think that is a kudos to us of the NDC for thinking so well about the good of Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, tax exemptions came to the table time and again. Many a times we had to go through the exemptions and ensure that we took out some of the items that were locally manufactured and yet were being brought and put amongst items that needed to be exempted. And that was very, very worrying. Most of the taxes we need to relook at and ensure that items, especially those that can be gotten locally, should never be part of any exemptions. Mr. Speaker, I will not be done on the issue of Honorable Atuforsen coming up to support and lead. When it came to these exemptions, when we had taxes that needed to be exempted, when even those factories were already in existence, we ensured that it never happened. And I believe that he is going to continue in that dimension. Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't like to talk so much because I know you have already spoken about time, and there are many others who are yet to come. Honorable Atuforsen, I wish you the best in your office, and I hope and pray that you are able to work and work as you have always been, to the benefit of us all. Not only NDC, not only MPP, to all Ghanaians and to the world at large. Mr. Speaker, Honorable John Abdullahi Jenapo, who has been presented as the Minister-designate for the Ministry of Energy, is one anybody at all would like to interact with. He is so highly sociable, very lively, outgoing, a person who is always ready to share knowledge, always ready to listen. And he is so good in his area of study, such that when he gets up, when we were in opposition to talk about the energy sector, you had nothing else to do than to listen and listen carefully to him. and learn from him. Mr. Speaker, during the vetting, you could hear the truth and nothing but the truth that he had to say. He knows it for himself that it is a sector that he shouldn't play with, and which he did. Mr. Speaker, immediately after the vetting, he had to come out to talk about the issue of some energy deficits and how there was the possibility of us having lights out, which we don't want to hear about. And when he was questioned, he said it and said it as it is. He wasn't saying it because maybe he was interested in just talking for himself or giving himself that accolade. No, he said it as it is. And he said and promised.
Honorable, hold on. Yes, Honorable
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
We have a report, a 48-page report.
Yes.
On 3 ministerial nominees.
Yes.
We have 25 members to contribute to the report.
Yes.
The appointments committee has to go back and vet 2 other nominees. So I beg of you to please regulate the time so that members will have the opportunity to make their contribution to the motion. That's my pleasure.
Well noted. Honorable Ladi. Yes, Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, let me also state that at the pre-sitting, it was agreed that a member should not speak more than 5 minutes. That was the limitation placed at a pre-sitting. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we need to go strictly by it so that we can go and continue our
So, Honorable Ladi, I think I precautioned you and other members who will be speaking that 5 minutes will be allotted to each member. So, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's unfortunate. I thought it was a point of order on what I was saying. I didn't know it was the issue of time. But I would let it go. With him, I can't talk much, or he will begin calling my name locally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Honorable Abdullah Jinapo, John, congratulations. I wish you all the best, and I hope that we continue to have the lights on. Mr. Speaker, my own brother, Honorable Dominic, has been one of the persons that I have always liked to talk to, and I go personally to discuss issues with him because of his demeanor. He is so diplomatic. He is such that he will go on to let you understand why he goes a particular tangent.
Honorable,
and
please wind up for me.
I wish him all the best. He knows what I am saying, and I know once he's been a deputy minister before, he's going to work better as a minister. My big brother, congratulations, and I wish you all the best, and take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, let's remind ourselves the time, 5 minutes, please. It's not that we are cutting anybody short, but apart from this, we have other business that we will confront ourselves with. So please, let's respect the time. At times, it's not palatable to say, Honorable Member, your time is up, so please wind up or stop. But if I have to do that, I will do that, please. Yes. Honorable Member for Asante Achem Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to first congratulate the nominees. Honorable Dominic Aine is my classmate for 5 years at the Faculty of Law and the Law School. So I know him very well to be a man of his own word and of good integrity. Mr. Speaker, he's a very hard-working gentleman and a very brilliant young man. He's worked very hard to be where he is. When we came into politics, I thought he was not interested, but later he joined us, and he has been a good politician, having served at the ministry as a deputy minister before Ghanaians decided that he should go and rest. Mr. Speaker, I have worked with Honorable Jinapo, whom we call JJ, on Finance Committee, and I've always admired him as a young man for his background and the knowledge that he has in steering the affairs of the committee. Though sometimes mischievous, but we play with those things. And then finally, I would want to also congratulate especially Honorable Kesolato Forsin. He's a fine gentleman. He has taught us a lot of things at the Finance Committee, and he has always lived by his word. Mr. Speaker, I have no doubt that these three gentlemen that the President had selected, I have so much confidence in them. I can only say and advise that they should not disappoint us. They should live up to the confidence that we have in them in order that Ghanaians would benefit from the nominations that the President had made. With this, Mr. Speaker, I would want to again wish them all the best if they are given the nod in their new career. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe we can all take cue with the time. Very snappy, and he was able to touch all the three. Indeed, he was a teacher. So it is now the turn for a member for Cape Coast South. Honorable members have been given a list, so I'm just going by the list. How will you know? Yes, Honorable Rickett.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion, item 10.3 on the other paper. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I would like to first of all congratulate the three gentlemen, Honorable Dr. Kesolato Forsin, who is a minister designate for the Ministry of Finance, Honorable John Jinapo, who is going to the Ministry of Energy, and Dr. Honorable Dominic Ayene, who is the minister designate for the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice. Mr. Speaker, I think at the veteran, Honorable Ato Forsin distinguished himself very well. He said all that he needed to say as a minister who is yet about to go to the ministry. And he did promise to deliver the promises that His Excellency the President had made in terms of tax that we hope to repeal. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Ato Forsin was at the Ministry of Finance as a deputy minister with myself over 8 years ago. He's been a ranking member of the Finance Committee for, I think, 6 or 7 years. So he's basically been following the finance ministry for at least over a decade. I have no doubt in my mind his ability to perform his duties as the minister in the times that we are in. And I wish him all the best, and I know that he will do well. We are all here to support him to make sure that he succeeds in this difficult economic climate that this country is seeing at the moment. Mr. Speaker, I'll move on to Honorable John Jinapo, a fine gentleman who is passionate about matters that involve energy. And I think he's followed energy matters for a very long time. I have no doubt in my mind that he is the right person to go to the ministry in these difficult times. With Dr. Dominic Ayini, my good friend, congratulations. The interesting thing is that all three gentlemen here have previously been deputy ministers of the ministries that they are going. So it shows clearly the succession plan that the NDC has in terms of promotion of people to positions. So the places they are going are not new to them. And I know that they will do well. We pray and hope that we all support them to succeed. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It is now the turn of Honorable Boama.
Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to sit at the vertical, so I'm yielding to Honorable Kwabena Ponkroma, if he's not on the list.
Kojo is on
So,
in the list.
Honorable Member for Takoradi, please.
Very well. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion moved on the nominations of the President. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the first person we are interested in is Honorable Ban Atoforsen, who is also a schoolmate, even though he was my junior. He's been a very good friend whilst we both came to Parliament. And I believe that the nomination is in the right direction. More so, when he has been a member of the Finance Committee for a very long time and been a part of the NDC campaign. Mr. Speaker, if you take a lot of the pronouncements and the campaign promises made by the NDC, naturally, finance was a major part of it. It is therefore unfortunate when nominees like my friend Ato and others are asked direct questions on the promises. They tend to tell you that wait for them to show us their next budget. They tell us, wait, let's go to the ministry before we get the full view of the data. So the question I ask myself is that not downgrading our politics? That kind of attitude, is that not downgrading our politics? I believe that it's time that we politicians start making promises that we are sure about the data and how effectively we are going to implement it for the benefit of Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, another area Honorable Atoforsen had made some suggestions, which I believe are good, and we need to encourage, is the use of the taxes or some part of the taxes paid by the informal sector being used as pensions for themselves. I believe that is one area he has mentioned, and I implore him that as he gets the nod, you make sure that the implementation of these ideas are effected immediately so that we can formalize the informal sector. Mr. Speaker, the other area you had also mentioned had to do with the issue of value for money, the issues of investor confidence, issues of employment and entrepreneurship in particular. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of value for money, I believe that is one area we need to quickly look at in a very big way, especially the processes at the Ministry of Finance. in situations where loans are approved in Parliament, and sometimes it takes over 1 year before projects are implemented, goes a long way to affect the real value we deliver or get out of these projects. Mr. Speaker, we've had challenges in this country where we continue to do roads projects that are too expensive, and the value we get out of it over a period of time diminishes, are some of the issues I believe that they should also be looking at. On entrepreneurship, Mr. Speaker, one of the biggest challenges we have in this country is the concept of all young people believing and thinking that after school, government will employ them. Mr. Speaker, that is one major difficulty that we've had as politicians. And I believe that investment in the area of private sector, small businesses, medium-scale businesses that Ghanaians can manage for the long term should be one area that government should be investing a lot of public funds, starting from now, to make sure that we can expand that area, use that to generate employment, and also use that to generate taxes for the country. On the issue of the nominee for Attorney General, Mr. Speaker, I've worked with Dr. Ayini on the subsidiary committee for the last 4 years. And he has shown to be a moderate. He has shown to believe in consensus. And he has always stood his grounds and admitted his mistake. And I believe that he's one person that, quite frankly, we are all happy he's gotten this nomination. I believe that the House would also support and make sure that he becomes the next Attorney General to be able to do the work for Ghana. Last but not least, I'll talk about John Jinapo, JJ. I had worked with him on the transition at Energy Ministry, and I believe that since he has a lot of information and he has worked in that sector, all we are praying is that Dunso do not come back. All we are praying is that the fuel will flow as that happened in the last 7 years.
Thank you.
And with these few words, Mr. Speaker,
thank you very much.
We support this nomination to go to so I can start with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's now turn to Honorable Xavier Sosu.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the motion ably moved for the approval of the 3 nominees of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Atuforsen has shown extreme leadership in this House and shown in-depth knowledge in finance and national economy, which I believe makes his nomination one of the finest and one of the best. Mr. Speaker, it is often said that true leadership is revealed by adversity. Mr. Speaker, it would bear testimony to the fact that Dr. Atuforsen was one of the people who was politically targeted. And throughout last year, 2 years ago, he had to endure all manner of attack on his personality. He had to endure going to court while serving as a very, very firm voice of the opposition on the Finance Committee. And Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Member for Medina, hold on.
Very well, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I must sound a caution. My friend said that Honorable Atuforsen was politically targeted. And I think this is not fair, and this is below the belt. To say that he was politically targeted, I think this must be expunged from the records. And because if he is asked to justify why he was politically or the circumstances of political target, I'm not sure the honorable member will be able to justify this. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much. Honorable Xavier once you are also an officer of the court, I think you do as the honors and withdraw that.
Mr. Speaker, I respectfully withdraw that statement.
Thank you very much.
Restate that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Atuforsin was one of the members of Parliament last year that underwent all kinds of struggles, let me put it that way, in the face of delivering his work before this very House. But, Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that he distinguished himself. He was firm, he was principled, he stood his grounds to defend his position when it comes to matters of the economy. You recall how he led our side to fight fiercely against the e-levy. And, Mr. Speaker, what is good about Dr. Atuforsin is the fact that even now, at the vetting committee, he stood his position to say that definitely the NDC government is going to honor its promise by scraping off the e-levy and other taxes that he's always stood by. Mr. Speaker, Atuforsin represents some inspiration to young people because he's in his 40s and yet he's already distinguished himself, rising through the ranks to the highest pinnacle of becoming a finance minister. And Mr. Speaker, that is an inspiration to all of us, and I believe that he is definitely going to carry the people of Ghana through and honor all the promises that the NDC has made in its manifesto, particularly when it comes to youth employment. Mr. Speaker, our brother and friend John Jinakbo has also distinguished himself as a member of Parliament and also shown very excellent knowledge when it comes to the energy sector. And I believe that he's also going to do very well and be an answer to the energy challenges that we were plunged into by the former administration. Mr. Speaker, finally, Dr. Ayine was my lecturer and has been an inspiration to me in various ways. And Mr. Speaker, I must say that in the last Parliament, when I led some private bills like the abolition of the death penalty, Dr. Ayine played a key role in ensuring that we achieve that goal of abolishing the death penalty, criminalizing witchcraft accusation. Mr. Speaker, I would want to use this opportunity to urge Dr. Ayine that Ghana still has to sign the second optional protocol to the ICCPR and also work on removing the death penalty from the Armed Forces Act. And I hope that as he assumes this ministry, he will lead the way to make this happen. And most importantly, also work on the non-custodial sentences for petty crimes. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I wish him the best, and I wish all of them the best, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. It is now the turn of Dr. Gideon Buakon. Doc, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to support the motion ably moved for the ministers.
Honorable member, may you speak up a bit?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise in appreciation of the opportunity you have given me to comment on the nominees whose reports have been brought before this House. Right Honorable Speaker, the ministers we are considering today, as has been said by one of us, have all served as deputy ministers in the respective ministries that they are going. And Mr. Speaker, it's interesting that the government led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is a government on a reset agenda, but these nominations indicate an upgrade from former deputy ministers to substantive ministers. It gives an indication that, indeed, it is good to upgrade in life as human beings. Right Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Dr. KCL Atuforsin, who has been nominated to the prestigious office of the finance minister. He's a distinguished personality. He served as a member of parliament. He served on the finance committee. He's been a deputy minister for finance before. So truly, his competence and experience in the ministry he's going to is not questionable. The Honorable Minister Designate came to the KNUST at the time I was a lecturer there at the business school for one of his programs. But Mr. Speaker, whilst we approve the Minister for Finance, it is important for me to note that he is going into that office to perform three main functions as any finance manager will perform. He's going to take investment decisions for the country, financing decisions for the country, and budgeting decisions. Mr. Speaker, it is important as a country, having one of us going into such ministries, to remind ourselves that we need to enter into contracts that the Ghanaian people will have value for money. Recently, His Excellency the President met the President of the African Development Bank and put before them initiatives and projects that the government wants to embark upon. Mr. Speaker, we have been on this curve before, and Ghana in the past have procured some loans for infrastructure projects, and most of these loans have come at exorbitant prices to the Ghanaian people. Mr. Speaker, if you indulge me, I should like to remind the minister going for the finance minister that in the year 2015, the government of Ghana, through the African Development Bank, took a loan for the Terminal 3 project. That loan came with an interest of 8.5%, so high for the Ghanaian people. It took the government of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to renegotiate that interest down to 5%. Also, the initial loan agreement for the Temako-Sombo standard gauge railway project that was contracted by the NDC government that the Honorable Atto-Forson was the deputy minister came with an interest of 6-month LIBOR plus 1.75%. Mr. Speaker, this was so high, and it took the government of the NPP to renegotiate this down to 6-month LIBOR plus 1.5%. Then again, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable,
if you look at the Pokuasi interchange.
Honorable Member, I believe you'll get time for you to debate some of these issues.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Just begin to wind up for me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the point I am making is that as the minister heads to the ministry to take financing decisions for the country, we must ensure that if we are going for loans, we go for cheaper loans. If we are procuring financing, we must ensure that the financing we are procuring are not coming at exorbitant prices to the Ghanaian people. Mr. Speaker, in winding up, I want to comment briefly on the Honorable Minister for Energy, John Jinapo. Permit me, Mr. Speaker.
I give you 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, something that is of utmost interest to the Ghanaian people today is electricity tariffs. I wish to remind the minister that Ghanaian people will be very appreciative if he's able to work to reduce prices or the tariffs of electricity. And Mr. Speaker, just to support what I'm saying with this data, Ghanaians have gone through a lot. In 2009, there was no increase in electricity tariffs.
Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, in 2010, Ghanaians paid 10%. In 2011, 8.9%. In 2012, 7.4%. In 2013, 58%. In 2014, 28%.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, in the heat of doomsday, we were paying 90%.
Honorable Member, thank you so much. You
Mr.
get the
Speaker,
opportunity.
If you just oppose this.
Honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr.
Honorable
Speaker,
member,
thank
you get the opportunity one day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So that
I am
you
so
can
grateful for the
give up
opportunity
your.
given me.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, please.
Right, Honorable Speaker. I just want to
Honorable
advise.
Leader, he's
I
the
want
first
to
timer.
advise. I want to advise. I just want to advise my colleague. I understand that this is a very exciting time for you, and that's why we're indulging you. But please, when the Speaker asks you to wind up, please do so. It's very, very important. We work towards the Speaker, and so when he tells you to wind up, please do so.
Thank you very much. It is now the turn of Honorable Ampemnyako Asujaman. Please.
Thank you.
Work around 5 minutes for me.
Mr. Speaker, I'll try to do less than 5 minutes.
No.
I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the announcement of the nomination of these 3 honorable members, Honorable Dr. Ato Forson, Honorable John Jinapo, and Honorable Ayeni, was greeted by Ghanaians with a lot of excitement and approval. And in fact, it tells all of us that President Mahama has started getting things right. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, there is one thing that is common about all these nominees, and it is the fact that they are all being nominated to ministries that they previously worked as deputy ministers. In fact, Dr. Ato Forson was Deputy Minister for Finance, John Jinapo was Deputy Minister for Energy, and Dr. Ayeni was Deputy Attorney General. And this tells us something, that if you are given an opportunity and you work hard, one day you will be recognized. Oh, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Opon is harassing me. One day, you will be recognized and you will be elevated to higher heights. And so this is a lesson to everybody, that any opportunity that you get, no matter how small it is, work hard and one day you will be rewarded. Mr. Speaker, their responses showed clearly that they are ready for the work and they appreciate fully the task ahead of them. In fact, Dr. Ato Forson stated clearly that he is going to walk the talk. President Mahama intends to walk the talk and to deliver on all the promises that he made to Ghanaians. I was so excited hearing him give assurance to the committee, through the committee to all Ghanaians, that in the next budget, Ghanaians will see the repeal of those taxes that we spoke against when we were in opposition. That e-levy will be abolished, that betting tax will be abolished, and others. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Ato Forson made rather an ambitious promise that he aims to work hard to bring inflation down to 8% plus or minus 2. Knowing that inflation had risen to over 50% under the previous administration, it is quite refreshing to note that that is one of his targets, that he will bring down inflation to a single digit. We know that inflation came down to around 20-something%, but if that is one of the targets of Dr. Ato Forson at the ministry, then it is very encouraging, and I believe all of us will work hard to support for the realization of this. Mr. Speaker, he explained the 24-hour economy, and contrary to what the leader said, that he said he's going to be only about the real sector, that was not his response. He said we will focus on the real sector. In fact, we, the NDC, have stated clearly that selected public institutions with large customers like DVLA, like the Harbour, like Passport Office, will all be under the 24-hour economy, and it will help create a lot of jobs for us. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Ayeni has demonstrated to the admiration of all of us in this House that he knows the subject, he knows law, and that when he worked at the Attorney General's office, he really learned, and he's going to bring that to bear in the execution of his duty. I admire Dr. Ayeni for one thing, that he is a very principled man. In fact, he took certain positions that were unpopular to those of us in his party, but he stood by them and said that with my background and everything, this is what I believe should be done. This is the man that is going to the Attorney General's department. And so when the minority leader was appealing that he shouldn't go and persecute political opponents and all that, I can assure him that the man going to this office is principled and he will do his work very well. Finally, on Honorable Jinapo, he's my friend. If I don't mention him, it will be fair. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Jinapo, someone I have worked with on the Finance Committee, has also demonstrated that he is ready to help us solve the energy challenges. He said something about power purchasing agreements, and I was so happy with that response, because an erroneous impression has always been created that it was wrong for us to have take-or-pay clauses in power purchasing agreements. But he demonstrated that even succeeding governments after him signed about 6 agreements that also included take-or-pay clauses. Thank you very much. So I encourage all of us to approve these nominees. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. It is now the turn of Honorable John Darko.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity given to me to support the motion for the approval of the 3 nominees in the persons of Dr. Dominic Ayeni and Honorable Kasil Atoba Forsen and Honorable John Jinapo. In the case of Honorable John Jinapo and Dr. Ayeni, I had the opportunity to put some few questions to them during the vetting, and I believe their answers to the questions are out there. I believe the jury is still out there on whether their answers were satisfactory or not. But Mr. Speaker, I did not get a chance to ask the Finance Minister nominee 1 or 2 questions that I had, and I want to bring that to the fore. Mr. Speaker, when the Finance Minister nominee, Honorable Dr. Atoba Forsen, appeared before the committee, he presented a CV which I went through. Mr. Speaker, when I went through the CV, I saw that the Honorable Finance Minister nominee has stated that he was once a director of a company called Protect Integrated Services Limited in the UK. Mr. Speaker, when I tried to search on the company, I realized that honorable nominee's dates in which he claimed he was a director showed that he said he was a director from 2003 to 2005. The search at the UK's company registry, which is on the internet, shows that that company was actually set up in February 2005. I also realized that when you go through the company's record, Honorable Minister nominee's name wasn't there as a director, contrary to what he has stated on his CV. And then a search also showed that that company was liquidated sometime in 2009. I mean, this is going to be a Minister of Finance for the country. And I was wondering how somebody who is going to run our country will become a director, is going to run our finance ministry,
was once the director of a company which has been folded up. And then the fact that the date in which he claimed he was a director clearly shows that he wasn't a director at the time. He was a director. The company was actually set up in 2005 when he said that he was a director in 2003 to 2005. So, Mr. Speaker, if it's a mistake, we would like to have the Honorable Minister nominee to come and clarify that.
Hold on. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the practice in the UK is that when you are going to start a business, initially you don't register it. There are few businesses that start as registered businesses. You start under a concept known as trading at. So you trade as a particular name and you do business until the business is well established to a point where you can now go and formally register that name as the business.
Mr. Speaker, no.
So he started trading as that name and worked for about 2 years, after which he then went and registered the company. The records are there. You don't understand the concept, you can Google it. Trading as. And you will see it, that is a very common practice that is encouraged in the UK. And so this business was conducted in the UK. And that is how it started. That is why at the point that you are talking about, it wasn't registered. But it actually was an existing business. Go and check. Just Google it. Google it on your phone. You will see that in the UK, it is a common and accepted practice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable
clarification.
You may conclude.
Mr. Speaker, very specific point of clarification.
No, I'm not giving you the opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, that's a clear misinformation to the House, Mr. Speaker, on UK company law and practice.
Mr. Speaker.
Hold on. Let me give the opportunity to the chairman of the committee.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, it is observable from the fact that members get up without catching the eyes of the Speaker, then they will put on the microphone. Mr. Speaker, they have gone through an orientation. So this habit can no longer be entertained in this House. So once again, members should take note that by practice and convention in this House, you get up until you catch the eyes of the Speaker. You do not put on your microphone. It's not looking good. We've gone through the orientation exercise with them. So I don't want to see this reoccurring.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honorable John Darkon, you may continue.
Well, Honorable Speaker, so I was saying the company, the registered company that we know, which is the Protect Integrated Services Limited, was registered in 2005. I don't care what my learned colleague on the other side is saying, that you have to operate the company at a particular or for a particular period before it is registered. I think that it is inaccurate. What we are dealing with is a registered company, and that is what he has provided to this House and the people of Ghana, that he was a director of that company, Protect Integrated Services Limited, from 2003 to 2005. If it's a mistake, he should come to this House to come and correct it. This is a House of record. He is going to be the Minister for Finance, and it is important that some of these things are corrected. Mr. Speaker, on that I yield.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. We will take the last from the majority side, from Honorable Yusuf Suleimana.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the motion that is before us this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the three gentlemen that have been nominated and vetted are really assets to this nation. Mr. Speaker, we all know Honorable Atuforthen. We are aware of his humility, somebody who is very focused, very diligent, and very knowledgeable. And this was demonstrated when he was vetted. His responses were apt. The Speaker, when he was asked on the issue of tax exemptions, he was clear that we should give tax exemptions to companies that really deserve this, and that we should be fair in giving out these tax exemptions. And that, for me, is something that we all have to take into consideration. And this is a person that needs to occupy this very important position so that he will demonstrate fairness and not be biased. Mr. Speaker, let me also touch on my own brother, my younger brother, Honorable John Abdullahi Jinapo, a young man with vision, a young man who has demonstrated competence, a young man very knowledgeable when it comes to energy and finance, a young man who is able to give us assurance that Dumso will be a thing of the past. We have just inherited Dumso, something that the John Mahama administration had worked to resolve. We inherited it from you. And this young gentleman gave us the hope that Dumso will not resurface in this country. And he has taken pragmatic steps to ensure that we don't sleep in darkness. You don't sleep in darkness. And so you should begin clapping for him. You should begin clapping for him. That the mess you have caused, this young man, a visionary leader, has given us hope. And these are the kind of people that we expect His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to put into very strategic positions like this. And so I call on you unanimously to approve these men of integrity so that the mess that we have inherited, they will be able to resolve that for us. Mr. Speaker, lastly, because I don't want to take so much time, lastly, Honorable Dominic Ayeni, when the name is mentioned, people shiver. This is a man that we all know. His credibility level is high. You can compare him to other outgoing attorney general and what have you. You can compare them and you see the difference. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Dominic Ayeni, a lecturer, an experienced lawyer, but some of us seated here are even his students. I can see some of them seated there and listening. This is a man who taught you, and you know his worth. And that's the man who's now coming to lead you when it comes to issues of law and issues of courts in this country. I think you should be clapping for Mama for giving you such a respected person that even in the international front, when he speaks, he brings credibility to Ghana. And so, once again, I want to call on you.
Thank you.
To rise up and give a unanimous approval to this young man to save us from the position that we have inherited.
Thank you.
God bless you all. Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful.
Thank you. Lastly, we will listen to Honorable Kojo Nkrumah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it appears that the NDC has a knack for three wise men. When President Mills was in power, he had his three wise men. And President Mahama appears to have started off with his three wise men, our brothers who have been nominated and who have performed creditably when they appeared before the Appointments Committee. Dr. Ayine was Deputy Attorney General when I was called to the bar. He actually handed me my qualified certificate of law. His track record is well known and well respected. We wish him well. He's not only going to be Attorney General, he's also going to be Minister responsible for justice. And Mr. Speaker, justice is a subject that across the country many people still look forward to. Court infrastructure, residences for magistrates and judges, the kind of budgets that must go there, the availability of lawyers for legal aid to ensure that justice is done in the nooks and crannies of this country. These are things that we expect Dr. Ayine, in addition to other functions, to pay attention to, and we wish him well. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable John Jinapor, our brother, is well versed in the subject of energy and finance. He has offered a lot of explanations about take or pay and things that are going on in the past. Mr. Speaker, no matter the explanations you give, and I speak as a former member of cabinet, there are a few lessons that we can share with our colleagues. No matter the explanations that you give, what the people of Ghana are waiting for is that fuel prices don't go up, the electricity prices don't go up, the fuel is available at the pumps, that the lights don't go off. We wish our brother well, and we hope he delivers in that area. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Dr. Atuforsen spoke about 4 things that I want to briefly comment on. One was on raising revenue. The Honorable Dr. Atuforsen says that his target is to move tax to GDP ratio from 13% to about 18%. That's about 500 basis points. Mr. Speaker, 1% of GDP is about 10 billion Ghana cedis. So to move it from 13 to 18 is about 50 billion Ghana cedis. At a time when, as we have agreed across the political divide, some tax handles should be removed. E-levy, COVID, betting. E-levy and COVID alone, nothing less than 20 billion. So what he's promising us is that he's going to take away about 20 billion from the revenue handles, but still grow it by another 50. We are hoping that he will do that without introducing new taxes or renaming some of the taxes. And whatever he will do in that area, we will support him and help him. If it works well and Ghana moves to 18% of GDP, it works well for all of us. Mr. Speaker, he spoke about expenditure cuts and says that he's committed to it. On this side of the House, we had already advertised that we are looking forward to about a cut of 3% of GDP. So we'll be looking forward to the expenditure cuts that he will present in his first budget, and we'll help him to achieve it. However, Mr. Speaker, whatever cuts we do, we should ensure that quality of projects are not being sacrificed. We should expect that ongoing projects that are delivering value to Ghanaians are not sacrificed. Yesterday, the Honorable Agboja at his vetting mentioned that commitment on roads is about 100 billion. That means about 100 billion worth of road projects ongoing. These cuts, we are hoping, will not lead to a stop of the major critical road and other infrastructure projects across the country. Mr. Speaker, the third thing he spoke about, which I want to briefly comment on, is debt management. That under his administration, they will do better in debt management. At the same time, he's considering taking some more money from the IMF. That's not a grant. That's debt. What is that debt going to do? Worsen our debt situation or improve it? So, Mr. Speaker, we'll be looking forward to these things and helping our brother Ato to achieve those objectives. And finally, the respected minority leader drew attention to the fact that when the president issued the EI on the ministries, he said Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. But when he issued the communication to the speaker, he said Minister responsible for finance. We will urge our brother to avoid the trap of creating the impression that he's responsible for the economy. The minister responsible for fiscal policy, the minister responsible for finance, like my brother Ricketts knows, is a minister responsible for fiscal policy, not the whole economy. There are external economic developments that he doesn't have control over. There are things happening in the monetary policy space that he doesn't have control over. There are real sector economic issues in other areas that other ministers will be taking decisions and impacting the economy. He doesn't have control over that. So from our lessons, we wish them well. We will give them all the support that we can. If it works well for all of us. And with these few words, Mr. Speaker, we will support the motion that our brothers be approved to take up their position. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. The question is, As many as are in favor of the motion listed 11 in today's order paper, say aye. Aye. All those against, say no. Honorable members, it is obvious the ayes have it. The motion is hereby adopted. And that this Honorable House has adopted His Excellency the President's nomination of Honorable Dr. Kasil Atoba Forsen as Minister Designate for Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. Honorable John Abdullah Jinapo as Minister Designate for Ministry of Energy. And Honorable Dr. Dominic Akulintiga Ayini as Minister Designate for the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice. Honorable members, on behalf of the House, I would like to extend our congratulations to our own brothers in this House, and we hope that they will make us proud.